Hello, and welcome to this edition of District Administration Solution Showcase. I'm Kylie Lacey, the magazine's Associate Editor, and I'll be your host. In Solution Showcase, we profile new and innovative products and solutions that can help you meet your district's needs in a short video overview. And our guest for this edition is Beth Miner, Senior Mathematics Consultant for McGraw-Hill Education. Beth is going to talk about math instruction that is based on students making real-world connections and also talk about a product from McGraw-Hill Education called Everyday Mathematics 4. So Beth, it's great to have you with us. I'm going to turn it over to you at this point now. Welcome to Solution Showcase.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Kylie. I'm here to talk about Everyday Mathematics 4. It's about how children learn. And in a short time together today, I'd like to really talk to you about 3 ways that Everyday Mathematics 4 will meet the needs of every teacher in every Common Core classroom. First of all, how Everyday Mathematics 4 is engineered for the Common Core, how it gives every child the opportunity to succeed, and how it adapts to fit the classroom. Let's start with just a brief overview of just what Everyday Mathematics 4 is all about. We have a deep and rich history with Everyday Mathematics. It is a research-based, results-driven program. You see on the screen that from the very first edition of Everyday Mathematics, it has been built on engaged learning with meaningful interactions and engaging activities that really stimulate children and really connect mathematics into the world in which they live. It's a program that's also built on distributed practice, because deep research has shown that learning is distributed and provides a focused learning within the curriculum, ensuring true conceptual understanding. But most importantly, it's about long-term retention. And then it's about mathematical modeling. Long before Common Core, Everyday Mathematics was built on pathways to deeper conceptual understanding with concrete models, articulation of strategies, and the strong use of vocabulary and sharing strategies within a classroom. With Everyday Mathematics 4 and the emphasis on Common Core, we've also looked at focus, coherence, and rigor in building this edition. Each standard in every grade level is developed and mastered at that appropriate grade level. The carefully crafted progressions within and across grade levels provides outstanding coherence within every grade level. And finally, the rigor. The repeated, rigorous instruction that is the hallmark of Everyday Mathematics connects deeply into the conceptual understanding, the real-world connections, which supports, of course, lifelong fluency. As you see on the screen here, we're engineered for the Common Core. This edition was built specifically for Common Core. This is a unit organizer that you see on the page. In it, you'll notice that immediately teachers are introduced to the standards for mathematical content that they will cover within this unit, focusing not just on the domain, but the specific cluster. And then, of course, the standards for mathematical practice. While indeed you may touch on all 8 standards of mathematical practice within the unit, notice that there's emphasis on 2 particular standards with regard to instruction and student learning. Engineered for the Common Core as well, with, as you can see here, the table of contents. In the table of contents, teachers will be able to see not just the standards for content, but also for mathematical practice, so that they clearly see the coherence within the chapter with regard to mastering these standards. And you'll also notice that as I show you a lesson here, and of course these are consistent across all grade levels, you'll notice an easy-to-use 3-part lesson design. This also provides outstanding pacing opportunities for teachers by showing them about how long they may stay within this portion of the lesson. Also, you see the focus clusters. And the focus clusters really give the big picture look within this particular lesson of how the standards are focused upon and that interconnectivity across various standards as well. What appears on the screen now is a spiral snapshot. And this really speaks to what we call spiral transparency. Everyday Mathematics is built on a spiraling curriculum. This repeated exposure, this distributed practice, provides students with the opportunity for long-term retention over time. And our research from the University of Chicago, where our authorship team resides, has clearly shown us that this is how students not only, acquire the practice that they need, where they really look at scaffolding of their learning, but how they also will have that retention that leads ultimately to mastery. You see the red arrow is also pointing to our digital assets in Everyday Mathematics 4. These digital tools provide everything that the teacher and the student will need with regard to anything within a lesson, but also provides them with the tools they need in the classroom and outside of the classroom as well. We know that every child needs the opportunity to succeed in the classroom. And what we've done, again, I'm showing you that easy-to-use 3-part lesson and that spiral snapshot. The idea behind the spiral snapshot is this. You see the gold on the snapshot. That's the lesson that we're currently in. The blue indicates the lessons that have preceded this one, and the blue beside that also indicates the lessons that are coming. This gives the teacher exactly what it's called, a snapshot, to see where have I instructed this standard before, how was it instructed, where will I see it again, so that the teacher has that confidence in knowing that indeed the standards are not just being delivered, but they're also being developed and practiced. And also, of course, with that opportunity to succeed, we'll show, as you see here, the opportunity for the teacher again to look at another look at the spiral. We saw a snapshot. This is called a spiral trace. The spiral trace is embedded within every single unit. And again, what you're getting is another look at how the standards will be taught and what the mastery expectations are. As you look at this particular unit of study, you see the standards and operations and algebraic thinking, but also numbers in base 10, because we know that connectivity that's necessary inside of Common Core, where these two domains will work together. And again, as we look at what this does for the student and for the teacher, we see that the expectation level at this particular point within the school year is clearly evident, so that students, we see the opportunity for students to be able to show what they've learned to this point. And the teacher is able to see what the expectation level is with regard, again, to the mastery expectations. And assessment embedded within this is provided in every single lesson, so that I look at my snapshot, I see my bigger picture look with a trace, and then in every lesson I see an assessment check-in. And what this does for me is it allows me to see, at this point in the year, where are we with regard to mastering this standard? And as you look again at the underlined portion in blue, I see the expectation. But even more importantly for the teacher, I see a consequence. If a child is not meeting this expectation, what are the opportunities for success? And I see immediately that I have clearly pointed out to me what I could do as the classroom teacher to provide alternative strategies, alternative practice opportunities, or perhaps even the opportunity to go back within this lesson or lessons we've already covered to ensure that a child does have the opportunity to indeed be able to master this standard. This is but one piece of the assessment, but notice that the standards are clearly labeled that this particular check-in will cover, and I have the comfort and confidence of knowing I'm going to have one of these in every single lesson. And as we look even closer at some of the digital resources that are provided in Everyday Mathematics 4, notice the blue arrow is pointing to the differentiation support. So in every lesson, while I indeed have built-in strategies, built-in alternatives, I also have the opportunity to go into my online assets, and I see additional pages for every lesson. I notice I can reach it from anywhere. This is a 24/7 online accessibility tool. And it includes ideas for me with regard to meeting language demands and supporting every student, whether it's in mental math, language assessment, or the opportunity to reinforce vocabulary use. Again, provided for every single lesson. Unparalleled Common Core assessment support is offered so that every child will indeed have the opportunity for success. You saw the assessment check-ins built into every single lesson. But as a classroom teacher, as I'm closing out a unit of study, I'll have a lesson devoted to assessment called a progress check. You'll notice in the upper right-hand corner that this is considered a 2-day lesson. So yet again, the authors from the University of Chicago offered me support in how I could administer these assessments within my pacing guidelines. I'll have a unit assessment, and you'll also notice on this page clearly identifying the standards and which item on the self-assessment, the unit assessment, or the challenge assessment where these standards are clearly addressed in an item-by-item look. As I look at the second day of my progress check, notice that here it's devoted to an open response assessment. Open response gives me the opportunity to see the application of the mathematics in the world in which the child lives. I notice here in the red box on the page that we've pointed out in the goals for mathematical practice clearly in this rubric how they're being met here. This is a task that's devoted to a real-world connection and the application of the mathematics that's been taught within the unit, but it's also defining for me how I can see these mathematical practices in action. So it clearly connects to my ability to offer the success in mathematics for every child by guiding me as the classroom teacher into what I can do to provide all of these wonderful resources, whether in print or in digital form, to meet the needs of every child within my class in any grade level. Also, another opportunity for my students to have that unparalleled Common Core assessment support and also the tools they need for success is a lesson devoted to the Common Core performance task that we know students will have to be able to answer. This is called an open response and re-engagement lesson, and these begin in kindergarten and will go through every grade. This indeed is a two-part lesson, just as we noted in the assessment lesson. And on day one, we're going to introduce the task to the children. We're going to warm them up and provide the focus they need. You'll also see the spiral snapshot here, providing for me that all-important information I need with where am I going, which standard is being addressed, and how this task works towards eventual mastery of that standard. Students will work independently or in small groups. They'll share their strategies with each other. They'll articulate and critique the work of others. You'll notice on day 2 of the lesson, it's called re-engagement. Teachers will go back and set expectations with the students. They'll reevaluate the strategies that we use. They'll talk about them, again, critique the learning, and then re-engage the students in the problem from what they've learned. Give them the opportunity then to go in and revise the work that they've done. And notice again, there's your rubric, so that again you can apply the fully meeting expectations, the partially, or even exceeding expectations, so that again we can apply that assessment opportunity to a performance task as well. This allows every student the opportunity for success. And now let's look at how Everyday Mathematics 4 adapts to fit your classroom. First, when we look at adaptation opportunity, we also think about professional development for the teacher. In McGraw-Hill, we're going to provide you with mathematical background, especially on content and the content standards. These are broken down into what we call goals for mathematical content, looking at each individual standard and breaking it down into small components of learning. Then we'll also look at mathematical background in the practices, clearly defining through goals for mathematical practice. What is it to reason abstractly and quantitatively? And we get those, again, broken down so that as students are working within their mathematics, the teacher can see, are they meeting these goals? Are they not just using this particular practice? Have they mastered this particular practice? This information is provided as a part of professional development in every unit, in every grade level. The Everyday Mathematics 4 digital component will offer every teacher a full digital solution. You may choose to use all the digital solutions for both yourself and your students. You may integrate print with it. You may choose to use a hybrid form of both print and digital assets as a part of your instruction. Everyday Mathematics 4 gives you that flexibility. There's true, embedded, and authentic assessment. We need no more separate standalone assessment tools. All of the assessment resources provided in Everyday Mathematics 4 will offer the teacher the opportunity to assess within the unit in true, authentic resources that were a part of instruction. And then, of course, the progress monitoring against the spiral. reports and data that will track student mastery against the learning trajectories, truly ensuring that all the needs of every student have been met with wonderful data collecting resources built into the program. Everything in Everyday Mathematics 4 is device neutral. You can use an iPad, a tablet of any sort. You may choose to use a laptop of any kind, because everything will be HTML5 driven, so that you have the opportunity to use anything, both in school and out. And then it's engaging and meaningful content with problem-based learning that's delivered digitally. And as we look at the Student Learning Center, accessible anywhere at any time, students have the opportunity to go into the exact lesson that you did within your classroom on that day, using e-tools, using reference tools. Anything that was used in the classroom is accessible to the child. And when we look at some of those tools, look at the ease, look at the way that students can go into their resources and click on any of the tiles to access a portion of the lesson. And again, use those tools that were a part of instruction. This is a wonderful communication tool with parents as well, as they too can access the Student Learning Center. And the interactive resources, with the ability for a child to use his or her journal in every single grade level of Everyday Mathematics, make it interactive, self-checking, the opportunity to collaborate with colleagues and peers, the ability to go in and work with another student in the classroom at the same time. And the Teacher Center, teachers have the opportunity to plan from anywhere. They can also present using the EM tools that we've built for you and the resources that are accessible in every grade level, but also user-generated content as well. This is called the Spiral Tracker. I've mentioned two other Spiral tools. One is the snapshot at the lesson level, and then one is the Spiral Trace, showing you those trajectories of learning within a single unit of study. But by going online, teachers can access the Spiral Tracker. And this is the true bigger picture look at where is a standard taught at any time in the school year. I can track a standard from the first month of school until the last day of school. And again, giving me that opportunity and flexibility to go in and see just where is the learning taking place. As a teacher, I can view and evaluate all student work online. I can look at the actual pages. I can pull up a single student and click simply on meets expectations or does not. I can click on the whole class. I can track this assessment opportunity across a grade level, against a small group of students, or against a single child. And then I can use that data to help me make good choices for myself and for students as well with regard to my print and digital tools that I'd like for them to use as a part of their learning. My Everyday Mathematics 4 Teacher Center, of course, is an easy-to-use asset, again, from any device, allowing me to track success, plan online, use an interactive whiteboard as a part of my instruction, and also track and store my data with regard to student success also. This is Everyday Mathematics 4. It's truly engineered for the Common Core at the University of Chicago, and of course the writing teams at the university and Kinsey. It gives every child the opportunity to succeed with stellar teaching, instruction, tools, and resources, both in print and digitally. And it adapts to fit the classroom. It adapts to fit your classroom, again, with the online resources and tools that you need to ensure that every student has what he or she will need for success, not just in Common Core, but as 21st century learners. It's been my pleasure to introduce Everyday Mathematics 4 to you. I invite you to go to our website to learn more about Everyday Mathematics. And I thank you for your time and open the presentation to questions if there are any.
Great. Thanks, Beth, for that awesome presentation. Let me ask you a couple of questions. So you mentioned spiral transparency in your presentation. Can you share what that means?
Certainly. Thank you. That's a great question. Everyday Mathematics is built on a spiraling curriculum. And research shows that children who are given the opportunity to acquire a concept or a skill over time, have the opportunity to build their learning as they move through the grade level. It is a hallmark of Everyday Mathematics and Everyday Mathematics 4. There were 3 tools that I went over in the presentation. One was the snapshot. The spiral snapshot shows you at the lesson level exactly which portion of the standard is being taught, instructed, developed, and practiced within that particular lesson of instruction. You remember at the beginning of the unit, I showed you a spiral trace. This shows you exactly which standards within a unit are being instructed, and it shows you the expectations within that unit with regard to mastering that standard. And then the last thing was an online resource, and it was called the Spiral Tracker. And this is truly the big picture look at what a standard is within a grade level and how it's developed inside those progressions and the trajectories of learning for a single standard over an entire year. So this gives you that focus on the standard, the coherence of developing it. And again, those were the 3 tools that truly made the acquisition of the Common Core standards at any grade level truly transparent.
Great, thanks for clarifying. And can you share a bit more about your overall approach to assessment and differentiation Everyday Mathematics 4?
Oh, great, thank you. Again, a super question. It's hard to pull the 2 apart. Our assessment will, of course, guide us very often into exactly what kind of differentiation a child will need. I mentioned the assessment check-ins, and you saw those on the screen. They're in every lesson, and it does just that. It lets you check in at the lesson level as to the acquisition of a single standard that it indeed is being instructed within that lesson. The check-in gives you a quick glimpse exactly of where you are on those trajectories of learning. It will isolate a standard, and you might remember the blue line that appeared. It talked about what the standard was, how a teacher might see that standard being used in the lesson, and then it gave an if the child is struggling, here's where you can go to provide that all-important expectation with results. On the second page of every single lesson, there's a differentiation page. And it provides in every single lesson the opportunity for pre-teaching through the opportunity to give a child the chance to see before the lesson level exactly what the concepts and skills are that will be taught, of course, meeting a standard goal. You'll have practice and you'll have enrichment. They will always be offered. Inside of those, you'll see activity cards for every single grade level. And these activity cards are part of the materials. It allows the teachers to set up small groups. The cards can be given individually, small group, or the whole class. And again, this allows almost a workshop method, a hands-on, that opportunity to go back and concretely work within the concepts of the lesson, as well as going back to revisit and differentiate instruction. There's also ELL within every single lesson, provided both in print and online. There's ELL at point of use within the lesson. There's adjusting the activity within the lesson. And this, of course, provides the chance for teachers to make on the spot differentiation. In addition to those assessments that you saw, the check-ins and the end of unit progress check, the online resources for assessment are phenomenal. They collect the data. Students may do the assessments online. They'll score online. They'll be stored online, providing actionable reports that a teacher can print and send home as a part of giving the parent the information that they would want to have about their child. And that's just a very, again, small picture look at what an assessment differentiation looks like in Everyday Mathematics 4.
Yeah, sure. Great. And lastly, what approach does Everyday Mathematics 4 take when addressing the standards for mathematical practices?
Oh, again, another great question. Thank you for asking me. The standards for mathematical practice, of course, a major part of moving classrooms into Common Core instruction. Everyday Mathematics has always been built around the concept of modeling. From its very beginning, has always been the program, again, research-based, where we knew this was a huge part of creating a stimulating classroom environment. So we've always asked those kinds of probing and guiding questions of students that really made them think about the mathematics, making those strong connections into the world in which they live. In Everyday Mathematics 4, we've taken the 8 standards for mathematical practice and we've broken them down into what we call goals for mathematical practice. And this really helps the teacher and the student as well see what's the expectation inside of that single practice. What am I looking for as a classroom teacher as I look for perseverance or as I look for modeling the math in practice number 4? So these, again, small chunks of looking inside of a practice and looking for it to, number 1, be instructed, number 2, is it being used, and number 3, are my students mastering this? You'll notice as you look through their materials that embedded within the lesson itself are little gold bubbles that are called gold for mathematical practice markers. We're showing you here that this is where actual instruction and use of a practice is taking place within the lesson. We also give you those all-important guiding questions to ask students so you can really pull out the inquiry, the conjecture, the fact-based answer. So this is but one way that we know that those mathematical practices are truly happening in your everyday mathematics classroom.
Great. Thank you, Beth. And now to our audience. I'm going to put some contact information on the screen, and alternatively, if you'd like more information, you can fill out the form you see below this video. So while they're doing that, Beth, at this point, I'd like to invite you to give us a quick wrap-up of what we discussed here today.
Thank you so much. It was truly a pleasure to be able to present Everyday Mathematics 4 to you today. As I mentioned, Everyday Mathematics is a part of the University of Chicago. Its rich and deep history is over 3 decades long with regard to research into mathematics and, of course, how children learn. Everyday Mathematics 4 was created, of course, after the Common Core. It will be released this fall, and we look forward to hearing from the audience, and we hope that you will take the opportunity to communicate with us so that we can share even more about everyday mathematics. Thank you for listening.
Terrific. Thank you again for being with us. And that's it for this edition of District Administration Solution Showcase. Thank you for watching.